Greetings. Welcome to TheQueenElle LLC. This is Queen Elle. Thank you so much for joining me today. So as the title states, this is another Astrology 101 video, and this is regarding Vedic versus Western astrology. So the astrology that, at least in the United States, is most widely used is considered to the world Western astrology. Vedic astrology, the word Vedic comes from ancient Indian texts, and it essentially is also known as Jyotish, and I will put that word below so that you can see it, and that word means light. So again, that astrology type is derived from ancient Indian texts, and here are some of the differences. So one of the main similarities is both types of astrology involve 12 signs and 12 houses as well. Now, where they differ is Western astrology just focuses on Earth being basically the center of your personal universe, because that is where we reside and that's our placement here in the universe. And Western astrology takes into account looking at all of the planets from the perspective of Earth and where we are in the universe, and just looking at all of the other planets' orbits in relation to Earth. Now, Vedic astrology, it takes Earth rotating on its axis into consideration. With regard to Western astrology, Earth is the center, and then the other planets, they're the ones that are moving essentially around us, just to take into account the changes that the other planets are going through the different signs. When you look at your natal chart with Western astrology, you're looking at that moment in time when you were born down to the minute, and exactly where the planets were in that moment in time, but specifically where they were in relation to Earth, right? And that's including the sun and the moon. So all 10 of those bodies, right? Now, Vedic astrology, with it taking into account Earth rotating, not just moving on its orbit, but rotating as it's moving on that orbit, that alters things a bit with regard to the zodiac signs. If you've ever heard anyone say, well, the way that we look at zodiac signs, especially on the West in the United States, is not really truly accurate. If you ever hear anyone say that, and then you'll hear, like, there's a new zodiac sign, a 13th zodiac sign, or you'll hear someone say, the dates are off on the zodiac sign. So where you may feel like, you may have been told that you were a Virgo based off of your sun sign and your date of birth, now taking into account this seemingly new information, or basically newly publicized information, that now you may actually be a Leo and not a Virgo. If you've heard anything like that, that is typically taking into account Vedic astrology. So it really just depends on what your belief system is and your preference. I will say that it's kind of, for a lot of people on the Western Hemisphere, it's a bit of, it's great information to have, but not necessarily something where many astrologers are willing to just abandon what they have been studying and practicing thus far to just completely delve into Vedic astrology. So another difference is that in Western astrology, if you want to pull or have someone else pull your birth or natal chart, there is one type of chart. Now, sometimes there are different angles that you can view the chart, so you might find out that there are different ways to view your chart, and that's just from a different perspective. Vedic astrology will have a North Indian and South Indian chart. The North Indian chart will focus on the houses, and the South Indian chart will focus on the signs, those zodiac signs. Okay. Now, also, there is yet another difference, and a major difference is astrologers who practice Western astrology versus Vedic astrology. They're kind of used for some different purposes. So Western astrology, the focus is on who you are innately as a person and where all of the planets, major and minor, were on your chart at the moment you were born. So what house they were in, what zodiac sign they were in, and just focusing on the different aspects of you, the puzzle pieces of you that make you who you are. Well, with regard to, and then you'll kind of hear more about, like when people are looking up their horoscope or being told their fortune, that is mostly Western astrology. And I will tell you that a lot of astrologers, don't necessarily like to do blanket horoscopes or fortune telling, because while you can pinpoint things, different milestones of someone's life by pulling their chart and bouncing it against where the planets are in any given moment, that doesn't have to be your focus. It can be a focus on self-improvement and development and the betterment of one person. And that's where Vedic astrology, they focus on the whole journey of someone's life, their life paths, different experiences that one has. And those different stages are called your personal dharma, and that's DHARMA. I will include that word down in the bottom. And then the ultimate goal of focusing on those stages is spiritual enlightenment, or moksha, and I will include that at the bottom as well so you can see the spelling of that word. So that's the focal point of studying Vedic astrology. So there is something to be said about both, and both of them will have a lasting impact, may have a lasting impact on one, to just to delve into more of the nitty gritty of why you are who you are and what makes you you, and how you can become a better version of yourself by learning more about who you are. Okay, so another difference between Western and Vedic astrology is the aspects. So if you haven't checked out any of my planetary aspects video, I will link one above. Essentially, that we have 5 in Western astrology, rather, we have 5 major planetary aspects that we focus on, and then there are many minor aspects, but I believe in that video I focused on about 7 to 10 of the minor aspects. So that is basically how the planets are interacting with each other, or the angle that is formed when you look at where one planet is at any given moment and then where another planet is. And if you draw lines from Earth to each of those planets, it's the angle that is formed between that distance, the degrees of separation between them. So in Western astrology, we have a set of the major and minor aspects, and any planets can have any of those going on at any given moment, just depending on that distance that they have from each other. Well, in Vedic astrology, each planet has its own assigned aspects, and they might not be experiencing all of those aspects at any given moment, but they have their own set of aspects assigned to them on a planetary basis, versus using like a collective set of basic aspects that any planet can use or experience. Okay, so another thing is, in Vedic astrology, the rising or ascendant sign is considered more important than the sun sign. So your sun sign is it's the date that you were born. It's based off of that. And so when someone typically says, "What's your sign?" they're talking about the sun sign. Your rising or ascendant sign is, and I'll link my video above where I talk about sun, moon, and rising signs. But your rising or ascendant sign is where the sun was on the horizon when you were born, at the moment you were born. That is, and it's the Eastern horizon. That is considered the rising or ascendant sign. And so, like I said, I'm linking the video above where I talk about what the differences are. But in Vedic astrology, they consider that one more important and more beneficial to you to know versus your sun sign. Where in Western astrology, generally speaking, people focus more on their sun sign when they talk about who they are. Or, you know, they ask somebody, well, what's your sign? Or when were you born? And then they kind of almost make a judgment of them and the compatibility between people based off of the sun sign. But there's so much more to who we are and how we are who we are. Okay, so that is it for my discussion on Vedic versus Western astrology. Feel free to pull up your Vedic astrological chart. You can search online and just search for a free Vedic astrological chart or astrology chart, and you'll be able to find one. You will need the same information that you need for your Western birth or natal chart, and that is your, they'll ask for your name and your email address just to be able to send it to you virtually as well as you just viewing it on their website. But they'll need to know the date that you were born, the specific time that you were born, and the location of your birth. And then you'll be able to pull it up. And again, the Vedic chart, they have a North Indian and South Indian version of your chart. And that's depending on if you wanted to view it showing the houses or based off of the zodiac signs. It's just a different view. So you may want to pull both and then look at them in relation to your Western astrology birth or natal charts, that you can see all three and see, you know, where there are correlations between the three of them, and anything that you pick up on that maybe you weren't aware of with one of the others. So I hope that this has been helpful. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be in touch. Peace. Ashe.